I don't wanna be just someone that's new. I speak my mind so free, so you could hear the truth. Yeah, I know that we all have fear.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Truth for Youth podcast with Micah Murphy. I am the host, and today I'm going to be building on what we've talked about in the previous couple of episodes. But don't worry, if you didn't listen to the other two episodes, you will still benefit from today. But I encourage you to go back. The last couple episodes that I've done, it's the foundation of what we're building on today. But before I get into the podcast, let me do a little side note and say, guys, thank you, first of all, for listening. Thank you for your support. Thank you for those that are trying to help grow this podcast. Again, guys, if you're finding value in these podcasts, then I ask, share it with someone. Share it with one friend at least. Maybe share it on your social media. Put it in your story. Put it in your feed. I would greatly appreciate it. Guys, I believe this is beneficial. Or obviously, I wouldn't spend time and energy doing this. So if you think it's beneficial, other teenagers, other young people, heck, other adults, your parents, whoever will benefit from it, then share it with them. Tell them about it. Get them to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. That way you will be notified when the new podcast episodes come out. You should be getting those every week. Pretty much every Wednesday night they are coming out. But you will get that notification, and be sure to check it out. All right, so let's get into today's podcast. So the last couple podcasts, again, just kind of a quick little summarizing those. Summarizing those podcasts. We were talking about the letter that Paul had written to Titus. He was telling Titus to tell the Christians in Crete to obey the authority, right? Respect that authority, but to do good. To be doing good works, good deeds, that should be the fruit that others see when they see your lives. And we talked about how Jesus even said, you will be identified by your fruit. Like that's how you know an apple tree is an apple tree, by the apples that are on it, or a pear tree, or whatever it is. You know it because of the fruit. And so we should be known as followers of Christ because of the fruit. Like, what have we done? What are our words saying? What are our actions showing? How are our lives being lived as an example for the sake of Christ? So we're going to build on that today and talk about just what it is to be kind of doing good. And actually, even the next episode that I'm going to do is going to be kind of continuing to build on this. So guys, I encourage you to kind of to stay up to date with everything that's going on. All right, here we go. Galatians chapter 6. We've changed letters, but again, it's Paul. So Galatians chapter 6, verses 7 and 8. This is what he says. Don't be misled. Remember that you can't ignore God and get away with it. A man will always reap just the kind of crop he sows. If he sows to please his own wrong desires, he will be planting seeds of evil, and he will surely reap a harvest of spiritual decay and death. But if he plants the good things of the Spirit, he will reap everlasting life that the Holy Spirit gives him. Again, guys, we need to be doing good just because, man, our world is crazy right now, right? So it definitely could use some more good because of all the wrong that, there's being done by, seems like, the majority of the world. But I know that's not the case. There are people out there doing good things. But we as Christians need to be doing good things because God has told us to do that, because that is evident of the fruit. We should have the fruit. We should be identified by that fruit. It's just a right thing to do. And then here is another reason that we've been given to do good things. We reap what we sow. Now, many of you out there will know this or hear this and think maybe of karma, right? Other world religions and a lot of people that are not Christians, heck, even Christians will even say karma a lot of times, but that's actually comes from another world religion. So we as Christians shouldn't use that word karma. But I see it all the time on social media. Someone does something and it's like karma, karma this, karma that. But really, that's a biblical foundation. You're just reaping what you've sown. And again, if you're sowing, we'll go back to last week. We're talking about the apple tree and the pear tree. If you're sowing those seeds, an apple seed, a pear seed, you're going to get an apple tree or a pear tree. My grandparents had crops growing up, so I got the chance to work in a garden on the farm, and a lot of times we would do corn, and we would do green beans and watermelon and sweet potatoes and regular potatoes. They did tomatoes. They did all sorts of vegetables and fruits. And nevertheless, it was always the case, whatever seed was sown, guess what? That's what propped up. That's the crop that we got. It's just the way it is, right? It's the way God created it. We're not going to get, a mystery. I've talked about that last week. It would be kind of cool, though, to have a mystery seed that would be something different every time you planted it. But that's not the case, at least right now in 2020. You have a specific seed, and what you put it in the ground, that's what you're going to get. So God is saying the same goes for our actions. Whatever you're sowing, that's what you're going to reap. Now, just to clarify a lot of this, I understand what Paul is talking about here. He's talking about really in a larger context. He's talking about if you're constantly, giving into the desires of the flesh and kind of sowing seeds of the flesh, you're being selfish, you're doing worldly things, you're doing things opposing of God, then you reap spiritual decay, he says. You're reaping death. You're reaping separation from God eternally and everlasting life. However, those that says reap good things those that are sowing good things, if you're sowing good seed, if you're sowing seed of the Holy Spirit and of Jesus, of biblical things, you've confessed Jesus as Lord and you're following his commandments and his obedience to him, then you're going to reap everlasting life. You get to spend eternity with him. So he's kind of talking about this in a larger context. But I believe that the principle is still the same. It's still whatever you sow, you're going to reap. Whatever seed you put in the ground, you're going to get. So if we just break it down to a smaller scale, and we look at maybe more specific actions, then that's the case. So if you are sowing evil actions, if you are sowing, hateful deeds or negative attitude, hatred, division, all the different things that are opposing from what God is saying, that's the kind of stuff that you're going to reap. It's just the cause and effect. So God's saying, look, don't do that. Reap the good stuff, but you have to sow the good stuff. You have to be planting and sowing the good seed, the good deeds. And before that passage even starts, it actually starts with, or I should say the beginning of that passage, it says, don't be misled. Remember that you can't ignore God and get away with it. Some say, you can't fool God, right? God sees, God knows. So it's not like you're doing something behind his back. It's not like, oh, I can go over here and do this in the dark or in the secret or whatever, and nobody's going to know about it. That may be the case that other humans may not find out about it, but guess what? God knows. God sees those things. This made me think about how at times, but let me stop for a second. But the same is true for doing good things. I know, look, I get it. It's frustrating maybe at times when you feel like you're doing good deeds, you're doing good things, you're trying to sow good, and in return, you're not getting that back. Like nobody sees it. You're not, maybe you're not getting recognized for it. Not that we should be doing it to get recognized, but sometimes we need a little encouragement. But sometimes we don't get that. But God's saying, hey, look, I see those things. I'm not being fooled. You're not going to pull one over on me. I see, and I'm watching, and I'm taking note. So now this brings me to the story that I was going to share. So this made me think of how, I have 3 sons, and a lot of times when Lois Ann and I are, taking them to either games or practices or different activities that they're doing, a lot of times they're all happening at the same time, or at least 2 things are happening at the same time, almost on a daily basis. So we're constantly trying to juggle this, right? So we're constantly trying to, run from either one field or the next, or even driving. But sometimes it's in the same vicinity, so we can maybe walk from one field to the other, whether it be practice again or maybe games. But there's always overlap. Look, my sons are very active, and you're usually doing sports year round. So it just happens, okay? Well, that means that we don't always get to see what our kids are doing, and I hate that. I want to watch, their practices and their games, and I want to see what they're doing, and I want to be there to encourage them and cheer them on. But the reality is I just don't get to do that, and Lois Ann doesn't get to do that either. And sometimes, again, we're split up. She's maybe at one field while I'm at the other, and sometimes we're at the same, and we go back and forth. But the purpose of the story is that sometimes we miss something that they've done, and they will come and they will say, oh man, Dad, did you see me do this? And maybe it was, get a good hit, maybe it was a catch, and maybe it was a good tackle, or made a shot, or just something that they did that they were super proud of, or they were super excited about. And they were dying to know if we saw that, because they wanted us to have seen that. And unfortunately, there's times when we have to say, man, sorry, son, I did not see that. But, tell me about it. What happened? And so they'll tell us the story, but there's always that look of a little bit of disappointment, right? Like they were hoping that we got to see them, make the great play or do something that they were excited about or proud about. And I get it. I understand exactly what they want and what they are experiencing. But like I said, unfortunately, there's times when we have to say, nah, we missed that. And that stinks, and they're a little disappointed. But God, on the other hand, he gets to see everything. So all the little good deeds that you're doing in the dark, or maybe that go, unnoticed, that you were hoping maybe would get a little noticed or get a thank you or whatever, guess what? God sees those things. God knows. God knows our heart. God knows our intentions. He knows what you're sowing, and he will give you the harvest when the time is right. Now, there is a negative to that, though, okay? So, yes, God gets to see our good things, but that also means God sees the bad things, right? So, we're not perfect. I'm not perfect. I've said it multiple times on the podcast. I make mistakes every day. I'm going to do something that was selfish, or, that was just maybe hateful, or that I regret. And God sees those things. So we have to know that he sees the good, but he also sees the bad. So that should hopefully make us a little more aware of what we're doing, to know, what? God knows. God sees. Maybe other people aren't seeing, but God knows the good and the bad. So keep doing the good things. Keep sowing the good seed, even though you think it's going unnoticed. And I'm going to say this too. All right, don't mistake this for meaning that if you're always doing good, if you're always sowing good, then that's the only thing that you're going to reap. Because that's not always true. Because we live in the fallen world. We live in a sinful world. There's just evil in the world. So there's going to be bad things that are going to happen. Some of your good deeds are going to go unnoticed. Some of your good deeds are probably going to return something negative even, and that stinks. I think of it as weeds that are growing in the garden. Okay, even though you're sowing good seed, And there's going to be a good crop to come out of that at some point. In the meantime, you may have to battle the weeds. Maybe some thorns come up. Perhaps even there's insects or storms or disease or something that happens that is frustrating, that is time-consuming, that may drain your energy. It may, totally change your emotions at the time, get you, again, angry or whatever. But that's just part of the world that we live in. But just know that the harvest, the good seed has been planted, so the good harvest is coming at some point. Okay, so keep doing the good, but just know, just because you're always doing good doesn't mean that's the only thing that's ever going to come back to you. All right? Look, I'm a living testimony to this. I've told many times, to either students in the youth group or on the podcast even, I've shared some stories maybe of how at times I try to be kind, I try to help others out, and it seems like the majority of the time that kindness is taken advantage of. Or I shouldn't say the majority of the time, but there has been many times that kindness has been taken advantage of. And I've gotten, financially taken advantage of, and just for those that watch our YouTube channel, the Murph Squad Family Vlogs on YouTube, a few episodes ago, I'd posted about our farmhouse and how our tenants they left that place destroyed, and you can watch it in the video. And I can't tell you how much we helped this family, like multiple times, multiple ways. I'm not even going to go into it. It's a long story, but Lois and I showed them so much kindness, so much generosity, just to be taken advantage of, just to be lied to. And they left that place trashed, and they left us in a financial bind with that place. That's just part of life, okay? So again, just because you're planting the good seed and sowing good seed doesn't mean that's what's going to be returned to you in that specific case. But let me say this, God has always been faithful. So as many times as I've been taken advantage of in life, God has continued to bless me and my family, and I'm super thankful for that. So even though that specific scenario, those people took advantage, and maybe good wasn't returned, but because that I've been faithful to God and still trying to seek Him and live for Him and sowing good seed, that He has still blessed us in other ways. So I have all the faith in the world that this principle is true. It's biblical. He says it's true, and I grasp it, and I hold on to it, and I believe it, and I try to live by it. Now, again, I'm human, so I'm not always planting good seed, unfortunately, and there's times I sow seed that I wish I could take back, but we're humans. We're going to mess up. So students, young people, whoever's listening to this, take heart that just because you have sown some bad seed in the past, it doesn't mean that has to define your life. Okay? Today's a new day. Sow good seed today. Live today for Christ. Do good things. Sow good seed so that you will be able to reap good seed, good harvest, good fruit. That's what Paul's trying to say. And that's what people are always saying, the whole karma thing, right? So now, Christians, don't use karma, all right? That's one of my missions is to get people to quit using that are Christians, okay? Because that's a world religion that's not Christianity. So you start using, that's the principle of you reap what you sow, okay? So guys, again, thanks again for tuning in, for listening. I hope that you're benefiting from these in the sense that you're going out and you're doing good deeds. I challenged you last week to pray about opportunities to do good. What is God putting on your heart? What situations is He putting in your path for you to take advantage of? For you to seek out opportunities to do good. Again, man, our world needs us right now to step up. We as Christians need to step up. We need to be doing good things. We need to be sowing so much good because there's so much bad being sown out there. There's a lot of bad harvest coming, but we as Christians, we need to be sowing the good seed so that we can have a good harvest. And again, don't get discouraged because you may not get that harvest immediately. Sometimes you have to go through the winter season. You may have to go through some tough storms, but God says He sees. You can't fool Him. He knows what's coming. Stay faithful. Keep doing what you're supposed to be doing, and one day the harvest will come. Guys, know that whatever you're sowing, that's going to come back. So if you're out there sowing evil, you're out there sowing hatefulness and just pure selfishness and greed, guess what? God says that's what you're going to get in return. And I don't think any of us want that as a harvest, but that's what will come at some point. So be careful what you're sowing. Seek God for wisdom. Seek God for opportunities to sow good seed. Because, guys, I want you to be successful. I want to see you live a fulfilling life, a useful life for the sake of Christ. So, guys, stay focused. Stay consistent. Keep believing in God. Keep moving forward. Keep doing good for the sake of Christ. Guys, thanks as always. Love you. If you need me, again, you can reach out to me through email. My email is in the show notes. Just title it Truth for Youth Podcast. And we'll see you in the next podcast. All right. Bye-bye.
I don't wanna be just someone that's new. I speak my mind so free, so you could hear the truth. Yeah, I know that we all have fear.